Okay, there's no intro video.
There's no intro? Oh my god.
It's okay.
Do the intro.
Here.
Dusty plains and broken dreams. Cowboys Indians on the same team. We got no masters, only our creed to break the chains and set us free. Riders on the prairie, the wild and free. Bows and arrows, cold 45's decree. No more tyranny, no more lies. Under open skies we rise. Fight, fight, fight till we reclaim the night. Cowboys and Indians in the blazing light. Fight, fight, fight till the dawn is near. We'll never live in fear. On the blood moon, we all unite. Horse loose thunder in the night. No longer slaves to the empire's might. Strength in numbers, strength in rise. On the blood moon, we unite. Horse loose thunder in the night.
Welcome, you beautiful patriots, to another episode of the Cowboys Indians Podcast. That was my wife, Lady Patriot. She was just giving me a kiss. I got home a little bit late, so we're, running a couple minutes behind, but that's all right. Happy St. Paddy's Day to everybody out there. I know that I'm not wearing green today. I don't see you wearing green either, Steve. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. That's lame.
My son
nice
gave me
way
that.
around it.
I've been wearing it for years, so.
That's cheating. That's cheating, man. So, happy St. Paddy's Day to everybody. I know that there's a lot of news to kind of cover. First and foremost, I hope you guys saw the interview that we had with Tom McDonald yesterday. That was one of the best, actually probably the best interview we've ever had.
Absolutely.
It was exclusively on Rumble. So if you go to rumble.com/thepatriotsprayer, you can find that interview, and
it's the one with a lot of views.
It's the one with a quite a bit of views. Yeah, that's for sure. I think we're up to like 80 something thousand now, but
85 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but Tom's a really good guy. Make sure you guys go watch that, and then please share it. We are trying to, of course, grow the Rumble channel for the Patriots Prayer Network. Us being the Cowboys and Indians Podcast, we are one of the multiple shows we have on there trying to lift up patriotic voices from around this country. So if you get the chance, please skip on over there and give it a listen. It was a really good interview. You guys will learn a little bit about Tom, and he made a pretty big announcement saying that, he's gonna be tying the knot with Nova this year, so that'll be really cool.
It's pretty incredible, man. It's still surreal though. Like the whole the hour and a half that we had with him, we asked him so many questions, but he kind of laid a lot out for us, and that's just kind of the person he is. He's an open book, and he's very genuine and authentic. And like I was telling him, I think that's what the type of person he is, like, resonates with a lot of people. And we kind of talked about the hardships he went through and still kind of currently going through with Nova. And man, it was just epic, dude. I've been like watching little pieces here and there, because I'm like, I'm to myself, I'm like, man, this is the biggest dude we interviewed, and I'm like, when did we screw up? You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, I kind of watched back on some of my clips, and I was saying a lot, and I'm like, I still do it.
Hey
it's
man,
okay.
we're still fairly new at this, and in all reality, I was explaining this to one of my followers because they kind of pointed out that Tom was circling around the point for too long, and I was like, well, I would rather have an unscripted interview in this way, and let somebody work through the way that they're trying to express something, rather than have a pre-scripted response, back and forth, 10-minute clips. Here we go.
For sure.
But I really enjoyed the interview. I'm sure you guys will too. If you do watch it, give it that like and share it. That'd be huge for us.
Honestly, like
Over
right
here.
after this show, you guys could go to Rumble, finish off whatever beer you have left, the green beer, obviously, because we're culturally appropriating today, and just pull it up on your TV and just spend the evening with me and Maurice. I'll let her know.
Yeah. And hey, Eddie was there too, and he actually busted out a freestyle rap, so he kind of killed it. Just saying.
Did he record and post it or no? I don't know. I've been kind of busy today.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Oh, Gizmo giving you an ultimatum.
I didn't have time to wash up. I literally just got home, and since the headdress is mostly white, I don't want to stain it, so I can't throw it on today. It's hot.
There you go. Oh my gosh! All right, you want to go run down a little bit of the news, the happenings today? Oh, so what just happened? President Kennedy's official government account posted, like JFK.
What do you mean?
Like from a government account, and hang on. It was John F. Kennedy.
What?
Yes. So John Kennedy Gov is the account. And it says, "My fellow citizens, our strength is unity. Build a nation not for ourselves, but for our children."
Whoa.
That one threw me off so bad. I don't even like Big Pete. He said, "You bugged me out with that post, Steve." I'm like, dude, it's from a government account. So I don't know. I know the JFK file was supposed to drop tomorrow. So
that's big news there.
Wild.
And I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit better release than what they've done with the Epstein files so far. But from what Kash Patel said in the interview that he did a while back, he's like the revelations in the files aren't going to be what we expect them to be, right? It's not going to say like the CIA definitely killed him. It's I don't think that they would release that. I got to be honest.
Yeah, like the first page, but you open the page. I'm not going to say the 3-letter organization took out JFK, and there was more than one, and there was no magic bullet, and Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't even in the picture. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we had that. And then we also had Ashley and Hunter Biden losing their Secret Service protection, which a lot of Republicans or conservatives rejoiced on that.
Not paying for that anymore.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. They had I think a dozen and a half Secret Service agents on their detail. It was just ridiculous. But then I think the biggest story today was President Trump mentioning that the pardons and the commutations are essentially null and void from Joe Biden because of the auto pen usage. So who do you believe was behind the auto pen, Mo?
I mean, it's tough to say exactly. I mean, I would probably say that Jill Biden did a lot of that work because there were a lot of pictures of her sitting at the desk. So,
I mean, she's a doctor, though.
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing about this is that what would make it official, right? That the president is supposed to have the power, but if somebody is creating a document that the president doesn't know about, signing it in his name, and then everybody just assumes that it's legitimate because it has his name on it, and it was assumed that Joe Biden actually, it was just assumed that Joe Biden actually signed it, but now that the revelation has come out that, he didn't actually sign it, then, I mean, in all reality, why would they be official? They weren't signed by the elected president, so why in the world would they be official? It was just created and shown as something official, but it's not.
Correct. Yeah, it was just like like when you graduate high school, they give you your diploma, but it's not really a diploma, and you get it later. It's something like that. It was fake, fabricated. What I really want to know is, okay, so they did the auto pen with all this stuff. How about all those executive orders that he signed? Because we already know now that his mental cognition was severely lessened even before he was elected. So I don't know, man. I'm sure Trump and his team will get to the bottom of it, especially with Dan Bongino being sworn in as deputy director today. So
Yeah, I got a lot of mixed responses on that. I don't know what
Really?
group that I got into, yeah, but there was a lot of black-pilled people commenting on it. And
Oh, yeah, dude.
oh, jeez.
Hey, well, okay, so to be fair, Dan Bongino and Cash Patel are now feds.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, you know how it goes. You can't please everybody, dude. You can post anything on the internet and someone's going to say, oh, you forgot about this. No, I didn't forget. Or, you know, or blackpilling or any of that other stuff. It's how it is on the internet.
And they're just assuming that nothing's going to be done. And I mean, so much has happened in this past month, and I know that we don't have the Epstein files like we wanted, but it took longer for Pam Bondi to get the Epstein files than she thought. You know,
That's
I mean,
true.
there's people that are in the government actively trying to stop the files from being released. And, you know, I don't know everything. When was the date? When was the date that Pam Bondi said that the investigation needed to be done? It was like a 3-week period.
I think it should. No, I don't know. I don't know if it's over yet. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she called for Cash to investigate and report back in like 2 or 3 weeks, and it's been about that time. So we should have that report and kind of understand exactly what happened and who is responsible.
Office.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess
I'll look that up later. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't care that much.
Yeah,
it's gonna come out. So I mean, that's one of the things where it's like I just kind of have to trust that they're gonna release this stuff, and if not, then I mean, what can we do about it exactly?
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. But so the way we differ between the left is we'll hold the left accountable, but also we'll hold the right accountable. And our guest tonight, Mr. Jim Pfaff, he's the president of the Conservative Caucus, and we'll get to him in a few minutes. Or if you wanted to bring him up now, it's kind of up to you.
But, we can bring him up in a few minutes. I actually wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor right off the bat, kind of get it out of the way here.
Perfect.
Before we bring Jim up, because
so we don't have to cut the interview in half. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys, our sponsor today is shopwithamerica.us. This is the way that we start to change the country from voting with our dollar every single day, buying all of these corporate name brand overseas products that are loaded with chemicals, be it house cleaning, toothpaste, laundry
detergent, beef.
Shopwithamerica.us is one of the best ways you can start your changing your daily habits and buying American. So I'm going to run their commercial really quick. You guys, thank you for tuning in. When we're done with this commercial here, we are going to bring up Jim Pfaff, the president of the Conservative Caucus, who is our guest today. So, but go ahead and check this out, guys.
Welcome to Shop with America, where the emphasis is on America. Our movement is to switch away from your shopping with the big box stores and the mega corporations back to supporting family-owned, made in America. We've been giving these big box stores our money every day for years. But what's happened is they've forced many small businesses to shut down. We call this the illusion of choice. We see all these products in these stores, but in reality, it's only a few companies that control it all. There are thousands of lawsuits for health damage because they put profit over our people. But there is another choice. We found a better way. There's a family-owned American factory with product integrity and have always done things the right way for the right reasons. And this company outperforms the big box stores. That's due to their month-to-month shopping club. They make everyday consumer products that we all use and buy again and again, like toothpaste, shampoo, coffee, and organic beef. Go to shopwithamerica.us today.
This is one of the ways that we can really make a difference, you guys, because we have not only been trained to shop at these big box stores for convenience, but we're sending our money overseas to all these companies. So we're voting with our dollar every day, funding overseas companies and funding them to continue poisoning us with their chemicals, be it in their laundry detergent or shampoo. All of these chemicals that you're constantly putting on your body every single day. Time to get rid of it. Go to shopwithamerica.us and sign up for the club. It is a monthly club. You can get all of this stuff delivered to your house in like 2 days. It will completely change the way that you shop for all of your household items, along with meat. If you guys are, interested in something like the carnivore diet, or you just like red meat, they have all that there as well. So sign up there, and Matt will get back to you. And it's like joining it's like a Costco membership, but it's online,
Exactly.
right? This is a club that you sign up with, and then you start supporting American companies. So check them out, you guys. Link is in the description as well, but it's shopwithamerica.us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, our guest today is the president of the Conservative Caucus, Jim Pfaff. Let's bring him up here. How you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you doing? By the way, I'm watching your intro and I'm getting just a little bit of Longmire vibes, and I'm thinking to myself, remember the asymptote. Did y'all watch Longmire? Did anyone ever watch the Longmire series?
Maybe I don't know.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I haven't actually sat down and watched the whole thing. I've heard great things about it, though. So
yeah, they said they would tell one another, because the guy who owned the bar was the Indian, and Longmire's the cowboy, and they always said, remember the asymptote. We always get really close, but we never meet. That's what an asymptote is, and
Okay.
but you kind of I feel that way about government every once in a while, by the way. And you guys were talking about, we got to hold even the Trump administration accountable to these things. I've been working politics for 30 years, and I always remember the asymptote, like so close, so far sometimes.
Right.
But I have a little bit more hope in this situation. I think we're getting in the right direction.
Okay. Hey, so Jim, you kind of done a little bit of an intro, but would you like to explain to our audience who the Conservative Caucus is and what they do and what their mission is?
Yeah, so it was founded in 1974. We're actually the nation's oldest conservative grassroots organization. Howard Phillips was our founder. He was part of that fundamental Goldwater/Reagan conservative movement from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. What we do is we build out grassroots effort across the country.
Okay.
We are building out state by state and congressional district by congressional district, because we do get involved in independent expenditure work in campaign time. So last year we spent about $8 million on pro-Trump independent expenditures.
Wow.
So in 2026, I hope to be able to spend 2, 3 or more million, and then find some key races that we can get into, activate a grassroots network to register people to vote. But then the other thing we do is we are a kind of what you would say nonprofit lobbying organization. We're a 501c4, and we do work hard to push Congress to take action. So we're very pro-Doge efforts that we're putting together right now nationwide. We'll do others as necessary. The immigration thing is in hand right now, but if we need to speak out on that. But we are a MAGA organization. We are pro-Donald Trump. We believe in the MAGA agenda. You might find this or that ticky-tack little thing that, like I opposed the CARES Act. Donald Trump signed it in his first administration. There are things that can come up, but the reality is we need Donald Trump to be effective these 4 years. Absolutely. It's going to save America if he can do what he wants to do, and we're out there to stand with the president and stand with this agenda in every way we can. The next 4 years and the years after.
Absolutely, and we've kind of grown and kind of been able to see the differences between Trump's first presidency and the second one. And Pepperidge Farm remembers we lost the chamber in 2018. So it's up to us to make sure this doesn't happen again, because after that happened, there was only so much President Trump could do at the time. Jim, when did you take over as president of the Conservative Caucus?
In February of last year. My history working in conservative politics, constitutional politics, goes back to the 1990s. I was running a grassroots economic organization that ran state legislative campaigns. We were able to build and grow pro free market majorities in the Indiana legislature for a time. I ran a gubernatorial campaign. I worked at Focus on the Family for a few years in their public policy department, advancing their family policy council network. And then I spent about 8 years on Capitol Hill as chief of staff for both Tim Hulskamp from Kansas and Thomas Massey from Kentucky. I was his chief of staff for a couple of years. So I go on that strong pro-free market, Austrian economics approach to limited government, and pro-family, pro-life. This is the kind of stuff I've been doing for all this time.
For sure.
Do you think? I have a little question about Thomas Massey, because I know that there was a little bit of a spat recently with passing the most recent the spending bill between Thomas Massey and Trump. So how are you guys handling that?
Well, so I disagreed with Thomas on this particular one. I was supporting this continuing resolution, by the way, like this, because I hate continuing resolutions.
Yeah, right.
Listen, we need 250 Thomas Masseys and Chip Roys and Jim Jordans in Congress. We the weakness of the Trump agenda is Republicans in Congress. By and large, we've got a large group of them. Now, fortunately, so far, they've been standing together. So I'm very pleased with that, both with the nominations and so far with the main agenda items that have needed to go across the floor, both houses. So, but I diverged a little bit with Thomas on this one. Listen, I just, with all due respect to everyone that got all upset with him, I do not believe you need to get rid of Thomas Massey. You are going to have a rhino. In fact, Thomas replaced a radical rhino when he got elected in 2012 the first time. It was a big step up. And so when we have these mild disagreements, it needs to be with people who are fundamentally constitutionalists and believe in the American dream. Thomas fits that bill very well. But what we want to avoid is this larger core of people that was my frustration for 8 years on Capitol Hill, which is the appropriators, what we call the cardinals. Those folks love to spend money. A lot of the problems we're in right now, it's mostly a Democrat problem, but do not be fooled. It's also a Republican Party. You know what the MAGA agenda is a breaking away from this uniparty agenda, which just constantly grew government, and it just depended on what English you put on the ball, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. And that's what we're shooting for. So that's kind of my general take on that.
Absolutely. I think so. Okay, hear me out. I can respect Democrats because they tell you who they are. They will not shift from anything. But the problem we have within the Republican Party are these rhinos, these guys that will get elected, and then we'll have people like Crenshaw or Cornyn that will want to vote to send all this money to Ukraine. And they'll back Democrats whenever they see fit. So we have a gigantic rhino problem within the Republican Party. So hopefully we can change that soon.
Well, and that's what 2026 in part is going to be about. Now, we want to expand majorities. There's going to be a real opportunity to have a supermajority. There's enough activity out there that we could actually do that and have Republicans. Listen, net having Republicans in leadership with a Donald Trump as president is net better than obviously having Democrats in there. But that's if you have the leadership of a Donald Trump. On their own, they won't do so well. But that's one of the things that we've got in play. But this is the real problem. Listen, what has inspired Americans to overwhelmingly make Donald Trump president again is that he believes in the Constitution. And I know that there's a lot of quibbling on the edges of that particularly the left puts in there. But he believes in the Constitution. He believes in America, the concept of what America really is. Democrats, they want nothing to do with that. But as you say, the core of our problem is rhino Republicans that have to be kept in line because they believe in Washington, D.C. as much as the Democrats, not in the same evil ways, but in an evil enough way that we're now almost $37 trillion in debt.
Absolutely. So you started with Conservative Caucus on beginning of election year.
Yep.
How has the mission within Conservative Caucus changed? Is it more, are we starting to move and look forward towards midterms, or are we expanding on voter education? What are some different things that Conservative Caucus is doing?
Well, three main things. We are looking towards 2026. We're getting our ground team together in preparation for that. A second effort is really doing things like voter registration and finding out where like-minded voters are so that we can inform them what's going on. We also are undertaking an election integrity effort, not as broad-based as some organizations, but one of the things that we want to do and are working on right now is, frankly, just cleaning up the voter rolls in various states by using what's called an NCOA, a national change of address. The post office puts out every change of address about every week, or maybe a little quicker than that. And anybody that has done direct mail or worked with large lists knows that you try to clean up the addresses and you use that official post office list.
Yeah.
When we do that with these state voter registration rolls, and we come back to the Secretary of State or whoever the authority in that state is, and we say, these people are not valid anymore,
right,
and that needs to be cleaned up. Now, you have a big legal battle, and we want to take that legal battle on. But we know in a lot of states, we can quickly move a process to try to get that cleaned up. So we're going to undertake that as best we can. So election integrity is another area. And then again, we're trying to be in the media, talking about everything that's going on so that we can support the Trump agenda. The Doge effort needs a lot of light put on it. Like it's one thing to have gotten the information that we've gotten so far, and it's substantial and compelling and very important, but we got to keep talking about that message. We need to keep rolling that out and let people know why it's important.
Absolutely.
In support of what Elon Musk and Donald Trump are doing there, and then the other MAGA efforts that Donald Trump is attempting.
Before we move on to Doge, about election integrity, because I live in Washington State, and it's a mess over here. Not only are the voter rolls completely out of hand, but we also have universal mail-in ballots. Is there any kind of movement that you know of pushing for universal voter ID, or and having that come down from the top, from someone like Trump, who's saying, okay, the state elections need to have voter ID, because that's the only way that I really see. I mean, I could get into all the laws that they're trying to pass here in Washington State and the amendment to the Constitution that is completely insane, and that the majority of people here do not have a say in, because they're just the Democrats have had a supermajority for decades now, and we basically don't get any voice in it, because I personally believe that the universal mail-in ballots tilt everything towards Democrats, and so they continue to win. But the only reason that I've stayed in this state for so long is because I believe that the conservatives are actually the majority. But if we are able to clean up the election integrity, then we would actually stand a chance.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of a movement that you know of that is kind of pushing towards that, and having the states that don't want to participate in something like that participate in it?
And by the way, you're totally correct about Washington. I briefly lived in Washington in a company I ran for a couple of years. I was in Bellevue. I lived in Bellevue. We had a place down in Kent, Washington, is where we were running it. Listen, you go over Snoqualmie Pass, and that is red, bright red everywhere, except for a few precincts in Spokane, right? I mean, it is totally all red. And by the way, up and down the mountain range too, you've got a lot of red up around there. It's really Seattle that kills the state. But I do agree with you. Listen, the voter laws are a problem in states like Washington and Oregon, maybe less so California, although we see evidences that that's changing. There are a whole bunch of Democrats in the major cities there. But when you go to Oregon and Washington, that is a real problem. What I have been talking about, and some are discussing, is how can Congress approach getting rid of mail ballots? Now, just a little quick primer here. There are two kinds of mail ballots. There are unsolicited mail ballots and there are absentee ballots. We're never going to, I don't believe, constitutionally be able to get rid of absentee ballots. But what states need to do with those is go back to pretty firm restrictions with a signed affidavit under penalty of law. So in other words, if you're an invalid and you're staying in a nursing home or you're staying in the hospital for some reason, or if you're honestly due to business purposes traveling, you ought to be able to register your vote. If you're overseas in the military, you ought to be able to vote absentee. That stuff we don't need to get rid of. I mean, there are a few little things we can do to clean up the process, but we're never going to be able to get rid of. But I'm convinced that we could constitutionally get rid of universal mail-in ballots that are unsolicited.
Correct.
Because what is the trigger for why the constitutionality of the vote and also the constitutionality of the primacy of the states to be able to determine how their elections are run? What is the key factor there? The key factor is the voter. But what those mail-in ballots are is the state stating its claim that we can send these ballots out to anybody we want to. Well, if it's not solicited, in my opinion, legally, you've taken away the voter connection to that. So I think I think that Congress should, and I believe could, pass a law to eliminate unsolicited mail ballots. That would go a long way. And you're absolutely correct. That is a key factor that allowed Democrats to, and I'm going to use air quotes here, steal elections. I mean, there are a lot of things, and I know we're not going to go on this here, don't have the time, but there are a lot of stealing election things we could discuss, 2020, anytime. But that sort of thing, mostly on a small basis, has always sort of been there. There are election stealings that happen in local areas a lot, mostly local races. But what this is a problem with, and why I would use air quotes saying steal elections, is down in California, you can gather votes for any reason for all. I think theirs is a 45 or 50 day voting process. And so someone can go up to a door, ask a person if they receive their ballot, and gather up their ballot for them. Well, what does that allow? First of all, there's a major chain of custody issue. You cannot verify if that person, a group of people on a large basis, are going around encouraging people to vote a certain way. They're actually electioneering at the door. There's no way to validate whether that's the case or not. And that is a big problem. People who have voted for many years now, maybe the last 2 decades, you know that if you go to your local polling place, there can be no electioneering inside the voting area. But when you have these vote gathering methods, you're allowing electioneering in the voting place. Yes. So that needs to also go away. But that's the way that these unsolicited mail ballots can work, because someone who had no intention of voting could have someone walk up to their door and be encouraged to vote, not just to register their vote, but encouraged to vote a certain way, because that's the only person they're going to talk to before they make the vote. That is a problem. That also needs to be eliminated. I believe that could be eliminated by Congress too. And then you leave the rest of it still with problems, but you've taken out 2 major things that are a problem with our elections. And then if we can clean up the voter rolls and states are require themselves to do an NCOA to check the address on everyone, that's another mail ballot problem. It can go to another state and then come in and vote in your state. Lots of issues here, but those 2 things, unsolicited mail ballots and vote gathering, I think are not necessarily constitutional and should be challenged and changed. And I think Congress ought to take a look at maybe trying to do something about it.
I do have a question with some maybe moderate Democrats or, kind of on the fencers may perceive that to be a little aggressive. So with doing something like that, do you think it would kind of sway some of the people that Trump and the Maha movement have kind of brought to our side and kind of push them away from it?
In what way?
No, just meaning like, say, because some people kind of think it's because conservatives speak about voting and the legality and the
basically they want the sovereignty of the states to remain sovereign.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with this, and I have a lot of libertarian minded followers that every time I bring this up, they're like, well, the government's overstepping their bounds if they're, federally mandating how the states run their elections, and it really irritates me because it's like, well, then we're just completely screwed here. Like in Washington State, there's no way to win. I see zero pathway to win, and we're supposed to have a voice. We're supposed to be a republic, not a democracy. Not the fact that this tiny majority that they claim that they have, because they have more people in states, can just overrun all of our rights and just trample over the Constitution in every way, shape, or form without us even having a whimper legally behind it. And they're using the obviously most proven easiest way to cheat is universal mail-in ballots and signing up people to register to be voters when you get a driver's license, which, by the way, you can get a driver's license if you're an illegal, as long as they have a social security number, which we found out that they don't even keep track of social security numbers at all. You can reuse the same social security numbers many times over, and they don't check it. They don't care. So the fact that so many people are being automatically registered to vote, and then mail-in ballots are just being sent out randomly, like, I still get a mail-in ballot for the lady that used to live in my house, and we moved in here in 2019. And I got a ballot for her husband who died in 2006. The voter rolls are not clean here. And so there's no way for me to actually trust that the system is legit here. And of course, Washington State passed laws last year or the year before, basically saying that even with the Freedom of Information Act, we're not allowed to know the chain of custody. We're not allowed to know basically anything about elections. It's just trust me, bro. That's how they run it here.
It's a big issue. Listen, just to address this libertarian argument that you brought up, and I come from a libertarian mindset. I've called myself a Christian libertarian for many, many years. I think that the idea of liberty based in the Constitution is the concept of liberty that we need. But to make the argument that, we can't have our elections run by the federal government. By the way, we do have them in part run by the federal government already. I mean, since the Civil Rights Act of 1964, every southern state, mostly in the southeast portion of the country, their election rules had to be submitted to the Department of Justice annually. Any changes that they wanted to make had to be approved by the Department of Justice. So we were already running elections out of Washington, D.C. under that auspices. And we can argue as to whether we needed to do that or not. And there were certainly some massive problems, similar to ones we're complaining about, that were happening prior to 1964 against black folks in the South. So that's an issue. We've been doing that. There's another way that we run elections from the federal government. It's called UOCAVA. Essentially the motor voter laws, and then the UOCAVA laws add to that some new guidelines related to military people across, around the world, and their ballots coming in. This is a rule that Washington, D.C. put out that now requires voter registration to take place in your license branch, for example. That began with a federal law. So there are ways that the federal government does meddle in our elections as it is. So we can't ever forget that these things exist. What we need, though, is, and the things that I think Congress can do similarly, but for more righteous effect, is to require voter ID with citizenship voter ID that requires birth certificate and so forth to prove citizenship, et cetera, not just that. Then we need to get rid of unsolicited mail ballots, and we need to outlaw vote gathering. None of those things are necessary. There's no necessity to have voter ID not be required. That is an absolute necessity. And there's no need for vote gathering or for mail-in ballots. And then eventually what I want to do, and this may be hurdle to get to, but I'd prefer to have same-day voting, get back to same-day voting. Those things are fundamental to a free society, in my opinion.
Yeah, we see all these countries worldwide that are able to count all these votes for presidential elections. I think it was in South America. They did it within 12 hours, I believe. So it can be accomplished with all 50 states. I 100% agree with that. Yeah. I kind of want to talk a little bit about Gen Z.
Okay.
Because I noticed this last election, there was a huge Gen Z presence. online, so social media like TikToks and on X. What's the plan for Conservative Caucus? Are you guys are you focusing on Gen Z and eventually for the future? Because I mean, we have to get the future lined up for success.
My staff, the 6 of them, except for 1, are all Gen Zers. Well, I guess if you add me, I'm not a Gen Zer. I'm a Gen Xer. But we totally focus on really that effort. I mean, that is where we're at. So, for example, if you look at American Conservative Union that puts on CPAC, that's all baby boomers and early Gen Xers, right? Then you go the other side of the spectrum. You go to TPUSA or Young Americans for Liberty. That's all younger than Gen Zers, right? It's millennials, millennials. Yeah. So, but the Gen Z area is exactly what we're focused on. I mean, not that we won't be involved in other age groups, but that is the focus of where we're trying to go because it is the future. So for 2 reasons. First of all, right now, they are the folks in the key time of their breadwinning when they're building their careers, growing their families. They have the most at stake for what's happening right now. The baby boomers, they don't have a huge stake in what's happening right now, except for what comes into their personal interest. But Gen Zers are in a situation where what's happening to them right now must be done right, because as they get into the next 10, 20 years of their lives, it'll still have a huge effect. Whereas, someone 70 years old, 20 years from now, likely going to have passed away, right, or they're just not part of it. And then the youngest generation needs to be trained and brought up by that Gen Z component. And that they're the moms and dads of those kids. So Gen Z is where it's at, in my opinion. And we're totally focused on that, both in our voter registration efforts, in the way that we communicate with people in social media and so forth, where we communicate in social media as well as what we communicate. So yeah, absolutely. I'm in agreement with you. It's the most important.
Steve, keep making those TikToks, man.
Oh man. So I posted a TikTok today and I got 2 back-to-back anti-bullying protection notices. Like, man, I'm doing something right. I'm over the target.
Yeah, you are on top of the target. Yeah, it's crazy.
Mine are not even long either, maybe 15 to 30 seconds at most. And I just bring up something and I don't know, it triggers people. But social media. One
great shorts too, just to add to yours, is Nick Freitas, a Virginia legislator. He's got fantastic shorts that are very Gen Z oriented. He's in the middle of raising his family as well too. That kind of content is really important and gets to that generation. I think it's critical and vital.
Especially coming from a millennial, me.
Correct.
So it's kind of tough to see as far as my analytics go on X. You can see I have a tough time reaching Gen Z, and I'm not sure why, but the majority of my audience is 35 and older. I mean, there's a huge increase there. So I've been trying to rack my brain a little bit and figure out just how to reach these younger kids. And it feels weird saying that because I don't feel old. I'm 33, and trying to now redirect my focus to maybe appealing somehow to the younger generation, and kind of show them exactly, as far as I'm concerned, the best way to build their life is to get married and have kids. It seems like a lot of them don't like that, or at least they're not interested in it as much yet. But that's what I'm working on changing. But so I'm a little bit behind on appealing to the entire Gen Z crowd. But Steve, I'm putting it all on you. It's in your court. You got the TikTok, and you got to somehow get millions of followers on there, so that way you can really affect Gen Z, because as far as I know, that's where they all hang out.
Yeah, I'll try. I mean, I had about 2 months and I have 3,000 followers already. So,
but one thing to keep in mind with that though too is most Gen Zers are in the middle of raising families. So they're really getting in that busy time of life. But if you've got preteens, that is a lot of heavy work. It takes a lot of time, husband and wife. So that's a challenge. Of course, there are a lot of single people that aren't having kids in that range as well too. But keep in mind that's part of what's happening. What I think we're trying to do is also, as we're building out our state organizations and we're finding leadership in those states, we want to develop leaders that are in the Gen Z crowd, because that's another aspect of it too. So I know I don't look as old as I am, other than the gray on my beard. And by the way, I do not color my hair. I just want to make this very clear. It just has not gone gray yet. There are a couple of gray spots there. But anyway, a Gen Z influencer is really important. You do want people to be of the same crowd. And I think the millennial crowd, I can reach Gen Zers too, because there's just a basic youth component to all that. So I think we can get there. I think you just got to take the time. They're just starting to get rolled up into life. And I think that it's just about building people in that space, training them, helping them to understand, encouraging them, maybe not so much training them, just encouraging them in what they're doing and making it fun by working together.
Right.
Yeah. I hear you guys are wanting to kind of get into the podcast world. I've been talking to Eddie, of course, at the Patriots Prayer Network here. And any news on that front?
Well, we're getting there. We're putting our capacity together. I've got a team that can help us get all that out. I have access to a lot of people that we can talk to. We're rounding those things up right now, and more to come. We're still thinking through it. I just want to say I don't have anything conclusive, but I've got folks lined up on our podcast end already, and we'll be ready to roll things out very soon. It's really important thing to do, and because people that gets to millennial and Gen Z people and make it interesting, because they sometimes will have time for long form content when they're kind of pulling away from life a little bit or driving on the road while they're working. There's another thing too. So we're on our way. More to come.
Well, that's good to hear. And of course, the Patriots Prayer Network is all about bringing in, especially something like the Conservative Caucus that really
Definitely.
It's principles above party. And there's been that big shift with MAGA, and this is something that I've always identified as I would never say that I'm a Republican, and I'm damn sure not a Democrat, right? I say that I'm a free thinking patriot. I love this country, and I identify a lot with the MAGA movement because it's not like a component of the government that has been entrenched and has been protecting itself and building itself up like the Republican Party has. So when the Epstein list and all this stuff starts really coming out and there's Republicans on there, good. Send them to prison. Get them out of there. Get the rhinos out of there. We need to start getting patriots and
correct.
When people say the America First idea and just there has to be an understanding in this younger generation that this movement isn't about Democrat or Republican. This isn't my team versus your team. This is for the good of the country. We're going to do everything in our power to kick these rhinos out and to start actually making changes for the betterment of the people with representatives that actually represent the people. And like we mentioned earlier in the show, holding our representatives accountable to what they say. This is why a lot of people are frustrated with what's going on, but I know that there's been a lot of work behind the scenes with Doge that has been exposing, and it's kind of a lot of what we already knew what was going on, but we didn't have proof. We didn't have anybody actually sifting through the paperwork and seeing what it is. So I really enjoy the support that I'm seeing, whether from any generation that is getting on board with this movement, rather than being the Republicans here in Washington State drive me crazy because I just ran into the young Republican group last night here in Washington State, and the first thing on his bio was a centrist Republican, and I was like, well, we're not going to win with that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. A centrist Republican? What are you like? the people in Washington, the Democrats in Washington State are trying to put into the Washington State Constitution abortion up until birth and to have gender affirming surgery at any age. They want that in the Constitution, and they want to completely strip the parents from any of their rights of knowing about it or consenting to it. And you can't be a centrist on that. You can't make peace with evil like that. There's no central area in there. It's either you oppose them chopping off the genitals of your child without you knowing or consenting to it, or you agree with it. It's one or the other. So this movement, I'm really liking what I'm seeing as far as people not identifying as Republicans. And I mean, conservative is fine, but it's separating from the two-party system that has been ruling over us for so long.
Well, and we should be constitutionalists. We should be looking at the Constitution to figure out, because see, there's no United States without the Constitution, guys. I mean, that's what formed the United States of America. We need to understand what that means and the beauty of having limited government. By the way, anyone that calls themselves a centrist Republican is someone that really wants Democrats to like them. I mean, that's really all that it is. And I do not believe in bipartisanship. Both parties suck. Okay.
Yes.
Both parties got us where we are. I don't want either of them involved, right? And when you look at that, here's a quick little factoid for your audience. I've been sharing a lot lately. Back in 2000 and 2001, and the Wall Street Journal, back when it used to be a decent newspaper, in 2012, I think it was, wrote an article. In 2000 and 2001, the Office of Management and Budget, remember, we were running surpluses some years during the Clinton administration. The Office of Management and Budget projected that we would pay off the then $5.5 trillion national debt by 2013. Now think about that for a second. We were on track to totally pay off our national debt by 2013. So much so that when they were writing about it, they were all worried about the 30-year bondholders. How are we going to pay them off early? I mean, we're going to have to pay the extra interest on that. How are we going to deal with that? Like, they were speculating. That's how serious they were. And here we are in 2025 we're running at 37 trillion. We'll be at $39 trillion of debt already. We're running over $2 trillion deficits. Okay. So that's how far we've come. Who did that? Well, just keep in mind.
Thanks a lot, Obama.
George W. Bush was president, right?
Yeah.
For 8 years. Then Barack Obama was president for 8 years. George W. Bush doubled our national debt, and Obama doubled it even more. And we did add debt during the Trump administration. It was mostly related to COVID. And so let's just not forget who brought us in this place. And it was the parties. It was not Americans. And Donald Trump represents a pulling away from strict party adherence to more principle-based adherence, looking towards the Constitution and looking towards rationality. This is what the tariffs battle is all about, by the way. And again, I come from a libertarian free market Austrian economics perspective when I think of what we need to do in the economy. I don't believe in tariffs for tariffs' sake, but I can tell you this: when I hear Donald Trump talking about reciprocal tariffs, where we're looking at another country and saying, hey, you charge us that, well, we're going to do the same thing. That's the way the tariff system should be. Unilateral agreements between countries and having a fair exchange between each of them, where you don't have all the lobbyists having to determine what the tariffs are going to be. One number, make it reciprocal and be done with it, or make it zero if you can. So there's a whole lot that parties have done to get us in this situation. And I don't want to be nonpartisan, because in this day and age, what that means is Democrat, but we pretend like we're not Democrat. I just want to get away. I just want the parties to become less important, and I want the people to become more important. And that's what Donald Trump has done.
Correct. The American.
Get rid of the DEI.
That's right. By the way, FYI, anti-populist, people are talking about populism. Oh my gosh, populism is so dangerous. No, it's not. It's called democracy. It's called a Republican form of government where people vote for their representatives.
Right.
That's a popular vote, folks. So we do want populism. We want the people to be the primary drivers. right there at the beginning of the Constitution, and it's legal language, FYI. This isn't just the preamble where we say, this is what we're about to talk about. No, we're talking about it already when it says, we the people, in order to form. And this is the basic concept of popular sovereignty. And that word, anyone that's heard those words, it kind of rolls off the top of your head and you don't quite get it. What it means is the people are the king, not the elected officials, not the bureaucrats. It's the people. We need to assert that.
Yes, they are elected representatives of the people. And we've noticed, over these last couple of decades, the oligarchy and the rhinoism that's plagued our country and our party. I mean, I know I'm America First, conservative constitutionalist. How do we go forward? How do we rid this country of rhinoism?
Well, we've taken a first step in November. Mm-hmm. And part of that is, as we were just talking about, if we align ourselves with a party, we do so very loosely and only for the organizational benefit of gathering people together of a similar mindset to do something. But to marry ourselves to party and not to the Constitution, I think is a major short-sighted way to look at things. So the way we do that is to continue and build upon the efforts that we already began last time around, where we say, we're not going to do what a politician tells me. We're going to look at what a politician says, and we either say yes. We either, in the old Emperor of Rome way, we do this or we do this.
Right,
and that's it. So we've got to become activist citizens, not every day, all day long, but we need to pay attention to what's going on. That's our duty as citizens, is to be informed. That's one of the things we try to do at the Conservative Caucus, is inform people and let them know what's going on. So the second thing that we need to do, you do need to get involved at your local level. As many people possible should run for their school board and run for their city council. Listen, guys, politics, everyone who you see in Washington, D.C., good, bad, or indifferent, they started somewhere like that. There are a few of them that ran for Congress the first time and made it, but the real effort to change things happens when you get involved at your local level. You do well there. You go through the battles that will come to you, and they inevitably will, just like on Capitol Hill they do, right. And then successfully navigate those battles and maintain your principles, and then move up to the next level. We need a bench of people to get involved in their local level. We need everybody during school board meetings, and this does not take a lot of effort. They need to go to their local school board and listen to what's being talked about and push back on bad ideas. Mm-hmm. I mean,
especially now that the FBI is not going after them.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bo.
Doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. And keep in mind the arrogance of these people. That, you remember when Glenn Youngkin became governor of Virginia, there was that big brouhaha in Loudoun County School Board. And that one man had come in, and the police manhandled him to the floor and cuffed him and took him out. We forget who that person was. His daughter had just been raped by a transgender guy in a girl's bathroom, and that school board was hiding it. How can these school boards hide it? It's when we're not involved. So school board meetings happen on an irregular basis, once a month typically. Get involved in that. Just take a look at what's happening there. And we do need to change our education system. So that's one very good place to start as well, too. And then beyond that, just pay attention to what's happening in Congress and go vote and tell your friends to vote. You help with a little voter registration. Call your friends and tell them what to do. Spend 2 hours a week doing that, and you could make a massive difference.
That's very, very true. And this is something that I really identify with the MAGA/Maha movement. It's not just the fact that you're supporting an idea. Like when Black Lives Matter was around, I mean, technically, I guess they still are, but everybody just changed their profile picture and clicked the donate button, and they were like, I'm done. I did my good deed. It's like, no, this is the time that we need to embody the values we wish to see in this world. And that means that every component of your life has to change for the better. You have to start figuring out what you're going to eat. You have to start figuring out what you're putting in your body every single day. You have to start figuring out where you're going to spend your money. Shop at America.us, sign up there, start supporting local family-owned American companies. I mean, that's the smallest start. Heather here says grassroots at the local level is where the trickle effect happens and snowballs up. This is the big difference that people, I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding, that you don't know how far out that ripple effect is going to go when you start speaking out, and when you actually start embodying those values, and you get married and you have children and you're involved in their lives, and then you're involved in their school, and then you're involved with their teachers, and then you get into school board meetings. Once this starts to happen, and we really have a mission to start protecting our children and thinking not just for our immediate, what's in the political news today, but we start looking forward to the future. Okay, how is this going to affect my children 10 years down the road? And what kind of future are they going to have if I stay silent now? If I keep eating pizza every night and just continue watching Netflix and just taking in this brain rot every single night.
Yeah.
What is it going to look like in 10 years for my child? What kind of effect could I have made? What difference could I have made if I start speaking up now? And that's what the entire MAGA movement, the Maha movement, this patriot movement that is happening across the country, where people are getting inspired, where they're finding God, and they're answering the call to actually embody the values they wish to see in this world. And I'm loving that it's starting to happen, and that hopefully I can inspire as many people as I possibly can to begin to do this. And it sounds like you guys have a similar mission over at the Conservative Caucus there.
Without a doubt. And by the way, let me put an even finer point on this. Husbands, love your wives. Spend time with them and cherish them. Husbands and wives, take care of your children. Grow them up. Teach them values. Live it yourself. Do the right thing yourself. Men, be faithful to your wives. Wives, be faithful to your husbands. Just decide to be a great family unit. John Locke, who is the kind of a fundamental intellectual part of the founding of this country, he noted in his second treatise of government, he said that all government begins in the family. And that when we create governments among men, we're ceding a little bit of that family authority to that government. But the real government starts in the family. And we need to understand that principle very well. I mean, I come from a Judeo-Christian perspective on this. Our whole idea and concept of freedom mostly comes from the Judeo-Christian ethic. We have some input from ancient Athens and a little bit from ancient Rome, but it's really that Judeo-Christian ethic that goes all the way back to Moses that is the foundation for freedom, because property ownership goes back that far. The idea that you must justly, without tipping the scales, moderate and adjudicate disagreements. That goes all the way that far back, amongst many other things. And I mean, who wants to live in a country where the 10 Commandments is not really important, where you don't steal, where you don't lie in front of court? I mean, this it's so fundamental and simple. Right. It all does begin in the family. The moral character of children, the moral character of their parents, it happens when they are dedicated to that way of thinking in their families. And if you propagate that throughout society, it really makes things much better. This is why the LGBTQI plus thing is a real problem. Like, it's one thing to have a free society.
Why they targeted children. Exactly. They know that they're the future.
Well, and it's one thing. It's one thing to say, listen, we're not rounding these people up and throwing them into concentration camps. I mean, no, I don't want to live in a society that does that. But I don't want to live in a society that says that's the most important thing. These are the relationships we must value. No, we have no need to value those relationships at a high level in this society. We need to value the family unit, because that's the only way that societies grow and thrive. They thrive out of the central family unit, and there's no other way to do that in any society in all of human history.
And me and Maurice have talked about this exactly, probably numerous times in our podcast. It's almost like a boomerang effect going on right now, because they started first, they attacked God, then masculinity, femininity, the nuclear family and then children. Now we're going in the reverse, where the men are taking back charge of their homes, protecting their wives, their children. And then once you get your foundation in the home correct, that's when you can go out and do your school board meetings or run for local office and branch that stuff out further. So that's why I really love like grassroots initiatives to kind of get that mindset in this country that, you know, we need to continue this and push this forward. I'm actually part of a 501c4 called the Rhino Removal Project, and it's we have similar values on between us and the Conservative Caucus that I would love to discuss with you further, but we're a little over time.
I'm glad to do that.
Yeah,
Hey,
we're like 5 minutes over, but
well, and by the way, I'm an ambassador for Hetero Awesomeness Incorporated, which is a 501c3, and we're going to be making some huge waves here soon as well. So as far as the traditional God, family, country, I mean, that's what we really need to be focusing on, and that's one of the things. It always seems to come back to this, because no matter what we discuss, if your household is in chaos and you're living a sinful life, if you're living in sin, but you still call yourself a Christian, like I say that, I mean, this country is a Christian country. That's the only way that we can move forward, is if we start embodying those values again. Now, I won't necessarily say that we have to forcibly, well, let me think about this, because
Forced proselytization, is that basically what you're trying to say?
we have to figure out a way to restore our faith in Jesus Christ in this country.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we will collapse.
No doubt about it.
I mean, we have to restore marriage, because Steve is exactly right, how they attacked masculinity, and that allowed the feminist movement to come about, and that destroyed femininity in almost every way. And then they went after the children once the fathers were removed from the homes. So in all reality, I talk about feminism a lot on my X page, and I blame it for a lot of things, but I don't blame feminism necessarily, because I see it as a failure of leadership from men. Yeah. I see it as a failure of leadership by the men to lead their wives and to lead their families. Like I'm the head of my spouse in my household. I'm not the head of the household, like what you file on your taxes. I'm the head of my spouse. I am her leader. I am her protector. I will do anything and everything for that woman. I serve her daily and she serves me daily, but I'm the leader when it comes down to it. And if we fail to embody these values, then we will continue to go down this road of the nuclear family being destroyed because of the failure of the men of the households. If we continue eating these plastics, if we continue not honoring God, if we continue separating ourselves from what made this country so great, from what made this country different and unique from every society before it that we have in known human history, then we will collapse, and it will be just an absolute waste of an opportunity, because we have the opportunity now to start turning this thing around. And I hope that we can inspire some young people in here, and you know what, it really doesn't matter what age you are. There's always time to be saved. There's always time to seek Jesus Christ. And there's time. We can do this, and I'm very optimistic about the future. Jim, I do want to thank you for joining us on the podcast today. I'm looking forward to talking to you more and working with you more, with the Patriots Prayer Network. We're going to have some announcements maybe coming up here soon, but it was really great having you on today. We have over 11,000 viewers live. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please share this podcast, and make sure to check out our Rumble channel at rumble.com/The Patriots Prayer. We had a big interview with Tom McDonald yesterday. More coming up in the future. Huge things coming up in the future. So,
yes, sir.
Jim, is there anything you want to promote or say before we get out of here?
Sure. I just want to encourage people. First of all, let me just very briefly say about a husband. Your number one job, husband, is to care for your wife's heart, even in your business, even in everything you do. That's the most important thing. If you start there, you can be successful. Of course, a woman needs to also do her part. Ephesians 5:25 says, husbands, love your wives, but wives, respect your husbands. It's a two-way street. We need to be doing that. So marriage and family is huge. And we stand for that. We stand for the Judeo-Christian ethic at the Conservative Caucus. We believe exactly what you just said. We totally 100% agree with what you just mentioned. Now, if people would like to find out more, they can go to theconservativecaucus.org. That's THE, conservativecaucus.org. And they can also follow me at Jim Pfaff on X. And of course, our organization is at TC Caucus on X as well too. We'll train you and show you how to be a good grassroots leader if that's what you're interested in. But we've got a lot of great information there that can help you understand what our country is about and how you can be involved at whatever level you're capable of doing. So theconservativecaucus.org.
Beautiful, beautiful. Steve, is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Man, I don't know. We talked about a lot. I felt like we could have gone on for hours, but there's just so much we need to talk. And really, I think we talk about a lot that we need to do in our country. We need to act. This is the time right now where we need to put our big boy pants on and let's get to work, because we have a country to save and we only have a few years to do it. So we need to do it now, and we need to do it for our future. So this is the time.
Beautiful, man. And you know, one of the reasons why we're cutting this podcast short is because Steve and I both work all day, and then we have, running this podcast, we only have a little bit of time to spend with our wife and kids. So part of the reason, you guys, like I could talk to Jim here and Steve for the next 2 or 3 hours, but we have to go be husbands and fathers and fulfill our duties in our households as well. So I appreciate you guys coming on, watching this, commenting. The chat was lighting up tonight. I'm sorry we didn't get to a lot of you guys, but please share this podcast. We'll be back. We'll see you back Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. in the Great Republic of Texas, whatever time it is there.
Got it. 8. 9.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. Take care, you guys. God bless. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Dusty plains and broken dreams. Cowboys Indians on the same team. We got no masters, only our creed to break the chains and set